Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for joining this stream. Big community chat, traditional Sunday community chat, also fundraising stream. Uh, Task for fundraising usually is to reach $200. That will make my work much easier for next week, but we will see. We will see how will stream work out. Of course, I have prepared a news segment for you, dear friends. We can go through all the important news for past week and then discuss the topics in the community chat. Of course, a new segment goes first, and then and then let's have a conversation about any topic. Really, I can see Michael Kennedy is commenting. The one is looking fresher. Thank you very much. Day off yesterday probably helped because it is quite exhausting, isn't it, to be like 12 to 14, 15 hours a day constantly in the news. It will get to you at one point. But anyways, as I said, I have prepared a new segment. It is community chat. So if you have questions, dear friends, after new segment, I will join your chat and will try to be as informative as I can while reacting on your comments or the questions, sir. And I will take my time today because it's a Sunday, isn't it? What else? If you want to participate in the fundraising, you can donate to this project, to this channel through PayPal platform, Boosty platform. Links are under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. You can subscribe to my Patreon right now during the live stream. That will be also a great support, of course. Or there is alternative to our Patreon Boosty channel, and I am publishing some extra content as my thank to members of community there on a regular basis on both channels, Patreon and Boosty. Also, there is a crypto option, also under the video in description box. And during the live stream, you can use super chat or rant feature on Rumble channel of mine. I'm streaming simultaneously on both my channels on YouTube and Rumble, and you can use that rant feature or super chat on Rumble or become a premium subscriber on Rumble. By the way, of course, everything counts. All support counts to maintain this project, and hopefully, I'm doing good enough job to be supported, right? And many thanks to everybody who already supported and continues to support and keeps me in this field of news and political commentary. Okay, that's been said, dear friends. All the links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. And now let's go through some news. And as almost always, I will start with the report of Defense Ministry about air defense systems work past night. RIA Novosti reported on latest update of Defense Ministry that past night, air defense systems intercepted 45 drones that was launched by enemy forces with assistance of NATO, obviously, from 11 p.m. yesterday late evening to 7 a.m. this morning. 12 drones were intercepted over the Samara region, 11 over the Saratov region, 5 each over the Rostov and Voronezh region, 3 over the Crimea, 2 each over the Bryansk and Lipetsk region, 1 each over the Volgograd, Orenburg, Ryazan, Tver, and Tula regions. As you can see, dear friends, unfortunately, geography of long-range attacks on Russia by NATO, and this is NATO attacks, we all understand this, is quite wide. But air defense systems on duty are there, and they're intercepting vast majority of incoming aerial targets, literally on daily basis. And in response, Russian armed forces also conducting retaliatory strikes on military and logistical infrastructure of the Kiev regime, energy infrastructure, and so on. TASS news agency is reporting, dear friends, that progress of the Russian armed forces on the battlefield, on the ground continues. And for example, settlement of Plishevka was liberated in Donetsk People's Republic. And this is not all. Also, according to Russian Defense Ministry, and this is confirmed, officially confirmed information, Russian armed forces also liberated settlement of Poltavka in Zaporozhye region, very important settlement, strategically speaking, right now on this sector. Russian troops are getting closer and closer, basically, to main supply and support line that connects Dnipropetrovsk region with the Gulyai Pole settlement in the Zaporozhye region, and Russian troops advancing simultaneously from both directions in the Dnipropetrovsk region and also in the Zaporozhye region. And Poltavka, liberation of Poltavka will play a crucial role in this successful advances, and also Russian armed forces liberated settlement of Chunishin in Donetsk People's Republic. So 3 more settlements have been liberated by Russian armed forces, although don't tell this to people that only receive information from Western propaganda outlets, because for them it's a stalemate, nothing is happening, right? But in reality, on daily basis, we have reports about progress of the Russian armed forces. Friday, I reported about 8 settlements that were liberated by Russian troops until that day for a week, right? From Monday to Friday. And then you can see we have more reports about more settlements being liberated. Overall, this week alone, Russian troops liberate like 11, 12 settlements. I mean, does it look like a stalemate? Anyways, let's continue, dear friends. RIA Novosti is reporting, and I think this is also important news that work has begun to restore power lines that are supplying Zaporozhye nuclear power plant with electricity. So power lines have begun. Repairs of the damaged power lines have begun in Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi announced repair work, and this is quote, repair work has begun on damaged external power lines at the Zaporozhye NPP after a 4-week outage. The establishment of local ceasefire zones have allowed to work to continue. Their Atomic Energy Agency quoted him as saying on social media, and I remind you, dear friends, that due to terrorist activity of the Kyiv regime and its NATO backers, Zaporozhye nuclear power plant was cut off from outside power supply, electricity supply from September 23rd, right? So it's basically 4 weeks that Zaporozhye nuclear power plant was relying solely on diesel electric generators. And the Russian side did everything necessary to make sure that all their crucial systems on the power line, including cooling system, of course, continues to work without any issues. But nevertheless, of course, for more safety, outside power supply points are needed. And the IAEA, even though without make it clear that it's a key regime that is conducting this nuclear terrorism, nevertheless get involved and at least brokered a sort of ceasefire from Kyiv regime's side, so that repair works will take place. Also, dear friends, RT is reporting about article that was in Axios about recent Trump-Zelensky talk, according to Axios, this meeting between U.S. President and this Western-backed terrorist Zelensky didn't really went well. It was bad, actually. And yet again, this is Axios is reporting. And it's, there is quite a number of articles in the Western media, not just Axios, that are basically on the same page there, right? And are saying that that meeting in the White House, not even in Oval Office, by the way, some other room was chosen for the meeting, went very bad, and not just for Zelensky, but for European so-called elites, and that is a globalist, of course, and globalist-controlled regimes all over there, Europe. But nevertheless, let's go through some details here. Friday's White House meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and Vladimir Zelensky was tense, with the Ukrainian leader failing to secure deliveries of long-range Tomahawk missiles. Axios has reported, citing sources. Trump told Zelensky he does not plan to provide Tomahawks, at least for now. According to 2 people briefed on their meeting, their talks lasted around 2.5 hours and were described by one source as not easy and by another source as bad. At times, the discussion got bitter, emotional, the outlet said. Well, maybe Zelensky come up with some show there, but probably he was put in place quite rapidly, right? Especially behind the closed doors, by the way. I don't think either Trump or any of his inner circle members will tolerate any nonsense from either Zelensky or anyone else from Zelensky's camp. And we have quotes here Nobody should shouted, but Trump was tough. One source told Axios the season ended abruptly when Trump reportedly said, "I think we are done. Let's see what happens next week," possibly referring to upcoming Russia-US talks. And as I reported earlier, the friends this week, two sides, Washington and Moscow, will work actively to prepare face-to-face meeting between US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin that might take place in Budapest in next 2 to 3 weeks time approximately. Exact date is not yet been shared with the public, and I guess we will have this week we will have at least one or two conversations between not just the delegations of the two sides, but potentially between Foreign Minister of Russia Sergei Lavrov and Head of State Department of US Marco Rubio. Let's see what information we will get on that. When it comes to upcoming visit of the Russian president to Budapest, of course, many media outlets, by the way, not just here in Russia, but also worldwide, are focusing at least partially on the topic of marshroute that Russian president will choose, because everyone is acknowledging basically that this is a bold-ass move on part of Russian president to go to NATO territory, right? Even if Hungary is acting sort of a neutral, nevertheless, Russian president have to fly through hostile airspace, right? And now everyone is guessing where this marshroute will go. Some say it's going to be Bulgaria, then Serbia, then Hungary. Some say it's going to be Turkey first, then Mediterranean, then Chernogorия or Montenegro, and then Serbia, and then Hungary. In any case, Russian president will have to fly through hostile airspace, and we know there is a lot of forces in the West, globalist controlled regimes, globalist proxy regime on the Kiev controlled territory in Kiev that would love to intercept this plane of Russian president and do some crazy stuff, and Russian security services will have quite a difficult work to do, actually. I would prefer, I don't know what kind of escort Russian president's plane will have. Of course, Russian aerospace forces will escort or will support plane of president over the Black Sea anyways, potentially over the territory of Turkey, because nowadays relationships between Moscow and Ankara are somewhat on a good working level, right? And Turkey might allow to Russian Air Forces planes to escort Putin. Even Chernogorия might allow Russian planes to escort her. Serbia will definitely allow, and in that case, Russian planes, Russian fighter jet, may actually escort president's plane to their until Hungary itself, right? Or if that would not be possible, Russian planes to escort all the way, then I guess it will be good if US will provide escort. And I guess one of the topics of discussion during the preparation of the meeting between the two sides, Moscow and Washington, will be exactly that too. I mean, security stuff, right? If Russia would not be able to escort Russian president all along, Russian aerospace forces, all the way to the Hungary, then probably US will provide such security, right? We will see, but topic is definitely being discussed by many media outlets. To continue, dear friends, we have this report from Vzglyad newspaper that I think is also interesting, which is based on CNN's original report, according to which Trump accused Ukraine of seeking to escalate the conflict. And allegedly, this become one of the points of irritation of the U.S. Leadership lately. And during that meeting between Zelensky and Trump, let me give you some details. So during the talks at the White House, U.S. President Donald Trump told Volodymyr Zelensky that Ukraine is seeking to escalate the conflict with Russia. CNN reports the talks, which took place on Friday, were described by CNN sources as tense, honest, and at times uncomfortable. It is noted that during the meeting, Trump directly and honestly told Zelensky that Ukraine, for now, will not receive long-range missiles from Washington. According to one source, U.S. President expressed their opinion that Kiev is seeking to escalate and continue their conflict. And I guess by saying Kiev, Trump and his team meant globalists, because who the hell is Zelensky, man? Let's be real here. Who the hell is Zelensky? Nobody, right? Just empty space. Nothing. It's nothing. Zelensky is nothing, literally, right? It's a globalist, and globalist control regimes all over the Europe that definitely seek prolongation of this conflict as much as possible, right? We all know that. And yet again, as I said in my previous updates, whenever Trump has a conversation with the Russian president, seems like Putin has some positive effect, on psyche of the U.S. president, and he begins acting adequately, at least for 24, 48 hours, right? This Putin effect lasts for a day or two, and well, maybe this time around the Russian side even more in even more detailed explained to American side what is the risks, right? If US will stay in this proxy war that West is waging against Russia, first of all, globalists, right? Maybe Russian side successfully explained to US counterpart, to American counterparts, that if things continue to deteriorate, then eventually we're all gonna lose, right? There are gonna be no winners in this war, and things go down in absolutely catastrophic ways, including nuclear exchange, right? And I don't think Trump really wants to freaking die, man. I really don't. If Russian president explained to him that, I mean, he's going to die, literally, right? If things go too badly. And in that case, if Washington realized that, well, I mean, we have to de-escalate, otherwise we are getting closer to the end, right? To sterilization of the planet. And in that case, maybe this time around, this Putin effect will last on Trump for a little longer than a couple of days, right? Let's hope so, right? Let's hope so that this is going to be the case. At least for next 2 weeks, we should expect some adequate behavior of White House and U.S. administration in regards to Ukrainian crisis. But I mean, I don't know. I am not quite sure about it. With Trump, you just never know. With his administration, those people may tomorrow come up and say they already sent Tomahawk missiles, or maybe they will come up and say something even crazier, that they transferred nukes, for example, or something, right? I don't know. Washington cannot be trusted, by the way. Western elites cannot be trusted in general, and of course, U.S. political class is a part of Western elites, right? But on this particular reporter, what can I say? Trump was on point, because clearly the regime, and that is globalists, are seeking further escalation. They don't want no peace, by the way, 100%, right? We all understand that. And it is good if Washington is realizing that. And according to a number of media sources or propaganda sources on the Kyiv-controlled territory, well, this meeting clearly did not went well, and already caused some internal tensions in Zelensky's camp. For example, Resident UA, Ukrainian propaganda outlet, is reporting, and this is interesting, I think. According to source within the Ukrainian delegation in the US, Kyiv's negotiations with the Trump administration have completely failed. Zelensky blames Andrei Yermak for the collapse, accusing him of failing to establish communication with Witkov. And Yermak is, of course, according to some rumors, is Zelensky's boyfriend or something like that. But that's the rumors, right? Okay, let's leave it aside. He is the administration of Zelensky, right? So, and one of the most powerful persons on Kyiv-controlled territory, allegedly. So during the visit, Zelensky was unable to secure any weapons or financial aid for Ukraine. This issue of Tomahawk missiles, the issue of Tomahawk missiles, was not even brought up during the closer portion of their talks yesterday. And this is according to resident UAE, although CNN is reporting, a number of other sources, that Trump directly told Zelensky that there are going to be no Tomahawk missiles, at least for now, right? So, well, there is some tensions on the Q control territory too. And as I said, it's not just Zelensky is upset, not just his affiliates, not just those criminals in Kiev, but also globalists, by the way, and globalist puppet regimes, globalist controlled regimes all over the Europe. And well, I can give you, for example, reaction of Merz on that recent talk between Zelensky and Trump. That one might argue was yet another U-turn on part of Trump. Who knows? Maybe. So Vladimir Zelensky's visit to the United States did not live up to his expectations, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz stated in a conversation with the head of the Ukrainian regime. According to him, the visit did not go as Zelensky had hoped. Merz emphasized his intention to continue supporting European aid to Kiev regime. According to NTV, by the way, that was NTV's report initially. Ukrainian media previously reported that public statements made after the meeting between US President Donald Trump and Vladimir Zelensky indicated that Kyiv regime's leader failed to achieve his goal during his visit to Washington. And well, yet again, one of their so-called goals of Zelensky or the globalists seems like was these Tomahawk missiles. And there is too much talk about Tomahawks, isn't it? There is too much talk about Tomahawk, as if this missile is some sort of a wonder weapon or game changer or something like that. No, it's just a fake missile that will be as easily intercepted and destroyed by Russian air defense systems as British Storm Shadows, French Scalp PGs, US ATACMS, right? There is nothing extraordinary. It's not a brand new weapon system, not a specially effective weapon system. It's just a fake missile that Russian air defense systems knows perfectly well how to deal with, right? But what makes Tomahawk be different from Storm Shadow, for example, and Scalp PG is, first of all, it's a nuclear-capable missile, and that's a big deal, right? That's a big deal. And deployment of nuclear-capable weapons, of course, increases risks of some intentional or unintentional escalation of the conflict towards the nuclear exchange, right? Which is obviously no one's supposed to want. And also range, by the way. If Storm Shadows and Scalp PGs have a range of like 300 kilometers around that, and ATACMS also have a 300 kilometer, the tactical missiles, cruise and tactical missiles. Then Tomahawk has 1,500, from 1,500 kilometers to up to some of the modifications, I believe, have a range up to 3,000 kilometers. So it's also a big deal, right? But yet again, from technical standpoint, for Russian air defense systems, that does not really make much of a difference which missile to be intercepted, ATACMS or Storm Shadow, right? Or Tomahawk. And yet again, even if US, as a thought experiment, just to make it clear that ATACMS would not change on the battlefield pretty much anything, right? Even if all 4,150 or whatever number of these Tomahawks US has in a stockpile, if all of them are used against Russia, maximum what US will manage to achieve is to partially take out Russian military-industrial complex or Russian energy sector, partially, but like 15%, maybe 20%. That's it. It would not make a general, massive impact on the battlefield, if any, right? And it will definitely would not turn the tide. While deployment of these nuclear-capable missiles will tremendously increase risks of direct confrontation between Russia and US, which will most likely go nuclear, right? And in that case, well, we all can say bye-bye to everyone and just die then. right? Because hardly anyone will survive if there's going to be a nuclear war between Russia and US. So hopefully, Russian side did explain these technical nuances too during a recent, quite a lengthy conversation between Trump and Putin and the teams of two presidents, right? I'm quite sure it was not just Trump and Putin talking to each other. Probably there was a number of their assistants in a room, right, while this conversation was taking place, and probably sides even make some breaks, right, for 5, 10, 15 minutes because to discuss some nuances in their inner circles and then to continue the talks, right? That's how I imagine these kind of talks are conducted. But anyways, hopefully, Russian side did explain to U.S. Administration that these tomahawks will change pretty much nothing on the battlefield. West would not be able to turn the tide, but deployment of Tomahawk missiles will tremendously increase the risk of all-out war between West and Russia. And I don't think Trump or his inner circle is suicidal to go this far. But you never know. You never know. They're freaking crazies, man, and anything to be expected from crazies, right? Let's continue. Art is also reporting that, well, on top of what I already reported, that there is a sort of depression and hysteria among globalist control regimes in Europe, also in Kiev, among members of this proxy regime, Western proxy regime of those terrorists. Some other articles, by the way, and some other public figures, experts, and so on in the West are beginning now to express opinion that, West basically already lost, right? This proxy war that they are waging against Russia, and no weapon system can actually turn the tide, objectively speaking, right? And this is a quite rare occasion, isn't it? When it comes to Western so-called media field, it is a very rare occasion when someone is allowed to say at least truth, at least partially, right? Not to make people go, in hospitals with the heart attacks. Probably, full truth cannot be said in the West, period. But, partially truth probably is allowed, right? And for example, ex-UK defense chief went to stated that Ukraine cannot defeat Russia, no matter what, which is true, by the way. And I was saying this since the beginning of special military operation, and not just me alone, but majority of our community knew it from the beginning, and they're all more or less well-informed people worldwide, right? Knew this. But Western propaganda, Western public figures were still pushing this nonsense, right, on public, that, if we provide all the support necessary, then Ukraine will defeat Russia. Well, now it's a time to face the reality, I guess, right? And acknowledge that this was a false narrative and nothing else. That was pushed over the Western public. Anyways, let me give you some details. So Ukraine has no chance of defeating Russia, even with their massive Western support, because it lacks the necessary manpower and does not have NATO troops on the ground. Former UK Chief of Defense Staff has said, and once again, your friends, as you can see, there is only partial truth there. You are not allowed in the West to say full truth. If you are a high-ranking official, current or former, or if you want to stay relevant in the public field and not get cancelled, you just cannot say the truth. Only in alternative media, brother. Only in alternative media. This is allowed. But in MSM, no way, right? And this former UK Chief of Defense Staff is also only saying partial truth. That, yes, Kiev regime in no circumstances can win this war, and he is pointing out that because there is a lack of manpower, and then he is implying that NATO troops are also not participating. Easy if deployment of NATO troops, by the way, would change anything. This British former official is thinking, actually believes that NATO troops are more battle capable than battle-hardened forces of the Kyiv regime? I mean, really? Is anybody in the West, anybody with the brains, with the working brains in the West, actually thinks that NATO troops, either from America or from UK or France or Germany or Italy, are more battle capable than Kyiv regime's forces that are fighting this high intensity fight for like 4 years now almost? How insane one have to be to imply that, well, NATO troops are much more capable, and if NATO troops were there, then things would be different. No, man, it will be easier for Russian forces, right, to move forward if NATO troops are deployed, because we will eat them alive, by the way, right? These NATO troops. Literally, I mean, we will just fucking eat them. All NATO troops know, by the way, how to kill civilians. All they know is how to kill civilians. Everywhere they go, they kill like 10, 20, 30 times more civilians than combatants. So what they gonna do against Russian forces, man? Half of them probably will die from heart attack in the first 24 to 48 hours. Or will run away with a concussion or PTSD or something like that. So come on, man. I mean, this is so... I don't know, man. This kind of nonsense is so unnecessary, right? This former high-ranking official in UK could go and say something like, maybe not full truth, but at least don't imply that NATO troops are somehow more battle capable than Kyiv regime's forces, because this is a lie, right? And you are losing credibility if you are saying stuff like that. That, you know, if there were NATO troops on the ground, that will change their calculus. That will change nothing. If anything, it will make easier for Russian troops to move forward, right? Anyways, and share your opinion, dear friends. I mean, I'm quite sure nobody in our community actually believes that German troops, by the way, or British troops are more capable than these battle-hardened Kyiv regime's forces, by the way, that are fighting this high-intensity fight on behalf of NATO for how long now? In an interview published on Saturday by the independent Field Marshal David Richards, that's who he's talking about, by the way, about this stuff. David Richards, who held his post from 2010 to 2013 and earlier commanded NATO forces in Afghanistan, accused Ukraine's backers of failing the country. Western countries, he argued, encouraged Kiev to fight, but they have not given them their means to win. This Field Marshal, is saying, I did not know UK had their field marshals still. Oh, okay. And we have another quote. My view is that they would not win, even if Ukraine were given all the necessary resources, he said. They have not got their manpower. According to Richards, the only scenario in which Ukraine could hope to win is a direct NATO intervention, which we won't do because Ukraine is not an existential issue for us. He added that while the West is in some sort of a hybrid war with Russia, it is not the same as a shooting war in which our soldiers are dying in large numbers. Ukraine is not an existential issue for us. It clearly is for the Russians, by the way, Richards said. And okay, by the way, I mean, yet again, Richards, this David Richards, British Field Marshal and former head of UK's Chief of Defence Staff, is not truly honest, not completely honest. I guess he cannot go on air and or he cannot give an interview and say that, you know what, Kyiv regime was doomed from the beginning, because neither us in NATO have what it takes to win the war against Russia, right? If he said that, probably he will be cancelled straight away, by the way, and declared a traitor or something, right? Although this is true, but at least he went to say partial truth that no way Kyiv regime gonna win this war. Okay, but I don't know. Maybe this personality truly believes that NATO troops, if deployment of NATO troops can change something. If he actually believes in that, then Well, too bad, man. Too bad, because these kind of stupid people should not be in high-ranking military positions. But I think he was just intentionally lying there, right? If anything, Russian troops, as I already said, would manage to move faster on the battlefield if against us were NATO troops instead of our brainwashed brothers and sisters that actually know how to fight, right? Also, dear friends, there was a Washington Post, right, that also spoke about these matters, and I don't know if we can trust these Western media outlets that always are referring to some sources, right? But nevertheless, we still pay attention to articles, isn't it? To some articles, at least, in these media outlets. And there is another one on Washington Post, according to which, during the phone call with Trump, Russian president reportedly demanded that Kyiv regime will give up control of their entire Donetsk region in exchange for ending the war, according to sources of the newspaper. In return, the Kremlin was said to be open to dropping its claims to remaining parts of Zaporozhye and Kherson still under Ukrainian control. The paper notes that such a deal would effectively confirm Russia's control over the Donbass and mirrors Moscow's long-standing conditions despite Trump's talk of a peace plan. Ukrainian and their European officials called their proposal unacceptable, with one diplomat comparing it to trying to sell Ukrainians their own leg. Okay, by the way, and yet again, this is not true. I can tell you right now, by the way, this report in Washington Post is definitely not true. Maybe partially true. Maybe Russian president said actually that, well, if Kyiv regime will withdraw forces from DPR, then we might have good enough ground in that case to begin some meaningful talks, right? But there is no way Russian president said during the conversation with Trump that Russia will give up on parts of Kherson and Zaporozhye region that are still controlled by hostile forces. This is not possible because, according to Russian constitution and the law, by the way, you cannot, no matter who you are, president or ordinary citizen, you cannot advocate for Russian territories to be separated from Russia. You cannot justify that. It's against the law. It's against country, against society, of course, to support any separatist movement, let's say, or separation of any territories from Russia. And it's against constitution, and no one will do this. Definitely not high-ranking officials, by the way, and definitely not to Putin. So Washington Post is just lying there. That's it, right? Maybe Russian president did not mention Zaporozhye and Kherson region during the conversation itself, but it does not mean that Moscow will give up on an operation, special military operation, to liberate these Russian territories. It's just, come on, man, let's be real. Who Washington Post wants to fool, man? Russian leadership was very clear in it was I don't know, November or which month it was, when Putin went to foreign ministry in 2024, that was, isn't it? And make it very clear in detail what is the necessary conditions that will allow Moscow to engage with the Kyiv regime in a meaningful dialogue, meaningful negotiations. And the Russian president said all the Russian territories have to be freed from their hostile forces. Kyiv regime has to withdraw its forces from all the regions, not just DPR. I mean, in LPR, they don't really have forces now, right? It's 99.9% liberated. Maybe some DRGs are running somewhere in LPR, but no settlement in Lugansk People's Republic is controlled by Kyiv regime. So conditions are simple to understand. Kyiv regime is withdrawing forces from Russian regions, and then meaningful talks began. And during their conversation, I mean, once these Western occupying forces, and I count Kyiv regime's forces as NATO forces, once they are withdrawn from their Russian regions, negotiations might begin. Some temporary ceasefire might be established while negotiations are in place, right? And Russia has a very direct demands. Orthodox Church has to be protected. New Russian regions have to be on the Kiev controlled territory. Orthodox Church and Russian language and Russian speakers have to be protected. Also, new Russian regions have to be recognized as the Russian regions, right? Kiev regime cannot have an army that can pose any threat to any neighbor, period. And there's nothing to discuss there, right? And they have to be denazification. They have to be denazification, by the way, not just demilitarization, but denazification too, and that means all the neo-Nazi criminals have to be put to trials, on trials, sent to the jails, right? And their denazification programs have to be implemented. And these brainwashed people have to be treated, right? They have to undergo this treatment through denazification programs so that they will be normal people again, or at least they will have a chance to be normal, right? And after that, if of course elections have to take place on the Kiev controlled territory, and whenever any agreements are reached, representative of opposite side have to have legitimacy, and Zelensky does not, right? So there are clearly number of points that Russian president highlighted already in 2024, even before that, but in 2024 during that meeting with the foreign ministry, right? And once these demands are met, I don't think there are going to be any technical issues, let's say, to achieve temporary ceasefire and begin actual negotiations, right? But I don't think globalists and their puppet regimes in Europe ever going to agree on that. No way. And the Washington Post is just simply lying here. It's absolutely impossible that Russian president said that we will give up on some parts of Kherson or Zaporozhye. It's just impossible. Not happening, right? And dear friends, before I continue, and there is quite a number of interesting news left, dear friends. Let me inform you once again that this is a big community chatter, and after new segment we will have a hopefully good conversation about any topic, right? I will join chatter, and please use capital letters if you have a question, or if you want to certain topic to be discussed. Capital letters will make it easier to spot it. And you can use also super chat, by the way, super chat feature on Rumble. For now, there was no super chat, I guess. Aina did not send me no screenshots. And what else, man? Because it's a fundraising stream. If you like my work and if you want to support her, if you want to donate, you can do it through several means. There is a PayPal link under this video in description box. There is a Boosty link there. Also, you can subscribe to my Patreon page or page on Boosty, and there is also crypto option. Alexander G is commenting that Boosty does not seems to work right now, which is unfortunate. Well, sometimes Boosty is not working, sometimes Rumble super chat is not working, but okay. But anyways, there is a usually these platforms work, by the way. I don't know. Hopefully PayPal is working. I don't know. All the links anyways, dear friends, to support her. All the links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. And during the fundraising, we have a goal to reach usually $200 for the next week, right? So that next week I will have a little less stress because it's a full-time job, isn't it? What I do here. But But yes, we only twice reached $200 really, actually. But maybe today we will do a little better. Although for this moment there was not single donation, so maybe today we would not reach even even $1. It's a possible. I'm reading simultaneously some comments, by the way, right now, and so. Anyways, dear friends, let's continue now, right? Let's continue with some other news. I needed this. I needed this short break of minute or two because yes, being live streams, by the way, are quite demanding, isn't it? We have to be focused on news, and you talk and talk and talk and well. Anyways, let's continue. And interesting news, I think. I saw a number of Telegram channels, including on RT, by the way, that Sean Pinner, U.S. Citizen, he is, isn't it? Who was actually U.S. or British citizen. Anyways, someone under the name of Sean Pinner, who was fighting on behalf of Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky, and was captured by Russian forces, and then released during their POW exchange, was very unhappy, by the way, that Pat Hexed, head of Pentagon, was wearing tie with the red, blue, and white colors, right? White, blue, and red colors. And he went to threaten him. And I can show you this post that he made. Give me 5 minutes in a room with this coward. Sean Pinner is commented, and I don't know. Is this counts as a threat against? If you keep in mind that this criminal went to fight on behalf of Nazis, I think this kind of statements definitely can be and should be treated as a threat against high-ranking official, and maybe security service will visit soon this criminal that should not ever be taken a prisoner and should be executed on the spot by Russian forces, but because yet again mercenaries are not covered by Geneva Convention. But some Russian militaries show mercy, took him as a POW, then released, by the way, during the POW exchange. And this criminal, instead of being thankful for the God for a second chance in the life, he didn't learn nothing, right? He's still acting, like tries at least to act tough, and threatens head of Pentagon. Wow, that's how stupid this Sean Pinner is, really. So yes, I don't know. I guess security services already working on to track down this insane element and take him down, and hopefully they will, right? And hopefully they will kill him on the spot without any mercy, because that's how mercenaries, Nazis, and the terrorists should be treated. That's it. TASS News Agency is also reporting that when it comes to U.S. mercenaries, by the way, just recently, one of the members of our community was asking about American citizens that died in the zone of special military operation, and there is also always some different numbers, right? I have seen number of 200 of U.S. citizens being killed in a zone of special military operation. I have seen some other numbers too, higher, lower, and today, TASS News Agency posted about it, made news about this matter, and of course I had to share this information. So number of U.S. mercenaries killed during the special military operation nears 100, according to law enforcement. And this is TASS News Agency. So the number of mercenaries with American passport killed by the Russian armed forces during the special military operation in Ukraine had neared 100. A Russian security source has told the TASS News Agency. So far, around 100 U.S. citizens who took part in the conflict on the side of Ukrainian militants have been killed, in Ukraine since the late February 2022. This source told the news agency. He named some of them, and there is their names, by the way. I'm not gonna go through the names of these killed mercenaries with the U.S. Passport, but I think number is actually much higher. When I saw this report, I was thinking, 100, really? Maybe this is documented cases when some document was found, when DNA tests were conducted and that kind of stuff, right? So this is confirmed, officially confirmed cases that security sources talking about, I guess. But in reality, losses of American mercenaries in a Kiev-controlled territory or in zone of special military operations should be at least twice or three times higher, by the way, because can you imagine there is a group of US mercenaries, let's say, moving in some direction and they're or holding some position somewhere, and then FAB 500 arrives or FAB 3000. And there is literally nothing left from this group. Literally nothing left. I mean, you might even struggle to find some body parts, right, to do some DNA tests and stuff. So who counts those? And how many such instances were on the battlefield? How many times Russian air forces conducted strikes on the points of deployments of foreign mercenaries? Numerous times, right? And I'm reporting about it almost every week, definitely every other week, right? When points of concentration of foreign mercenaries were targeted with either Iskander strikes or glide bombs, right? Or some other means. So who counted actually real number of the losses on part of US nationals that are fighting on behalf of Nazis? No one counted, right? But 100, this number, about 100 is, I guess, cases when, well, actually it was possible to identify their mercenary, right? Nothing to be said about regular military personnel and intelligence officers of the US, right? I guess quite a number of high-ranking officers, special forces, and intelligence community members were eliminated also on the battlefield. All the information about that, of course, will be classified for another, I don't know, 30, 50 years, if not long. Anyways, that's what official number is, by the way. This is not even official. This is just some security source told the TASS news agency, right? So I guess on the battlefield, there are at least some 90-something mercenaries were killed with their U.S. passport, and these people were identified. RIA Novosti is also reporting, and I did mention this news during my previous live stream, but I think news is interesting, relevant, and I will repeat it, that while Kiev regime and the NATO, by the way, struggling with the manpower, in Russia, situation is quite different, right? And the former Russian president and current deputy chairman of the Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, shared with the public information that some 336,000 people, by the way, signed up for the Russian military, signed the contract with the Russian military, and there are also 28,000 volunteers. So overall, some 360,000 people joined Russian armed forces this year alone. And this year is not finished yet, right? It's still a few months left, and probably number eventually will reach 400,000. And this is people that themselves going into recruitment offices, sign up a contract, and they're joining Russian armed forces. And when it comes to volunteers, by the way, these are volunteers. They have not been even paid for their assistance to army, right? But nevertheless, they play important role, of course, right? So all the support counts, obviously, right? So it is quite impressive, isn't it? In total, 336,000 people who signed the contracts this year, as well as 28,000 volunteers, have arrived at our military units. These are the current figures Medvedev stated, and quite impressive. What can I say about them? Quite impressive. In Europe, by the way, none of the countries have 336,000 army. Literally, none of the countries in Europe, among European NATO member states, have an army with the 336,000 troops in it. And this is what Russia received just as volunteers and the people that are going to army, sign up contracts and so on. Overall, Russian armed forces at this point are probably, I don't know, man. Army itself probably is 1.5, 1.7 million. I don't know really exact numbers. And it's not just the army, isn't it? There is Rosguardia also. And Rosguardia is a part of Ministry of Internal Affairs, either part of Ministry of Internal Affairs or maybe separate department, but it's definitely outside of armed forces. And Rosguardia also has hundreds of thousands of troops, by the way. And Rosguardia, for example, play very important role in a process of liberation of the Kursk salient, for example, right? And there are, units from Rosguardia participating in the zone of special military operation too, I believe. Ahmad Special Forces is a part of Rosguardia, and they are famous, right, for being quite effective on the battlefield. So it is what it is. I think this is important news. Also, dear friends, Middle East. Let me share with you a number of news about Middle Eastern developments. Interfax is reporting that Hamas accuses Netanyahu of violating a Gaza agreement, and there was reports that Israeli side opened fire at least on several instances, and there are dozens of people being killed and wounded as a result of Israeli actions. Although at the same time, Israel is accusing Hamas of violating ceasefire, and U.S. of course is accuses Hamas also on behalf of Israel. And we have this report, for example, that United States informed their mediating countries about Hamas violations of their Gaza agreement. United States has warned Qatar, Turkey, and Egypt about the threat of Hamas violating the ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. The U.S. State Department reports United States, and we all know, by the way, that Trump personally directly threatened to kill Hamas members, right? If ceasefire would not hold. Trump personally threatened Hamas with military actions, at least on 2 occasions that I remember. Maybe he threatened it actually more times. And none of us are surprised, of course, about this development because, as I said from the beginning, by the way, this Trump's 20-point so-called peace plan was anything but actual plan for peace. It's a deception operation that was focused on releasing Israeli hostages, and after Israeli hostages are released, of course, Netanyahu's regime, with the assistance of US, UK, secret services, will orchestrate some false flag operation, blame it on Palestine, and then will begin bombing began their military campaign again. And unfortunately, that's exactly what is going to happen, seems like, because, for example, already high-ranking officials in Israel openly calling for a war to be resumed. And we have here a statement of Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, or whatever his freaking name is, who calls Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu to resume a full-scale military operation in Gaza. And there is also another psychopath in government of Netanyahu, Smotrich, isn't it, who is also openly calling for a war. They are not even trying to hide, by the way, right? They are openly calling for military action, and yet again, I guess it's only a matter of days, maximum week or two, and Israel, US, UK, they will either conduct false flag operation or will use any false narrative to resume crimes against humanity that they were committing in Palestine. It is what it is, man. Unfortunately, actual peace, actual sustainable peace in the Middle East is not even on the horizon, because peace cannot be achieved until Israel is demilitarized and denazified. Period. I mean, there is nothing to discuss there. Until Israel is not demilitarized and denazified, there can be no sustainable peace in the Middle East. I am personally 100% convinced on that. And when it comes to assistance of US and UK and other NATO member states in all war crimes and crimes against humanity that Israel committed in Palestine, we have this report that J.D. Vance, Vice President of US, plans to visit Israel on Monday. That is tomorrow, by the way. And of course, he will express all their possible support to Netanyahu's regime. No doubts about it, right? Easy if anyone has did not knew it. Easy if anyone going to be surprised. And when it comes to Netanyahu himself, he's seeking another term, by the way, for himself. Israel's longest-serving prime minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, has said he will seek another term in the November 2026 parliamentary elections. And, well, let's see, by the way. Let's see. It's a year until then, right? Many things might change, but audacity of this criminal, by the way, I mean, and this is unbelievable, man. He thinks he can get away with all the crimes that he committed against humanity and continue to maintain position of prime minister. I mean, really, shame on Israel, man. Shame on Israeli society that they did not rebel already. But they've been indoctrinated, by the way, in all sorts of fascist ideology, and they just simply don't care. Majority, they're must be like tiny minority of people that are ashamed of all the crimes that Israel committed under their leadership of Netanyahu. But this minority that does not really influence much, does it? Also interesting news, dear friends. Commerçant newspaper is reporting that Afghanistan and Pakistan agreed to an immediate ceasefire. Talks were held in Doha, and this is every other day, by the way, we have these kind of statements now, right? Statements are made about ceasefire, and then Pakistan bombs Afghanistan. Afghanistani militaries shell Pakistani border areas, right? Then again, some statements about ceasefire, and then fight is resumed. I'm quite sure, by the way, behind this escalation is US, right? And I guess this is the way how Washington wants to put some pressure on Kabul, on Afghanistani government, to allow US militaries back to Bagram Air Base. And well, even though just like a week ago, foreign minister of Afghanistan stated that there will be no US troops on Afghanistani soil. Who knows, man? Who knows? Maybe to avoid further escalation, Kabul will say, you know what, okay, bring your troops, stay in Bagram, pay us money for a base. I don't know, 50 million a year, 100 million a year. Maybe Kabul will do that kind of stuff. Although there is only slight chance that this will happen this way, right? Most likely, Moscow and Beijing will assist Kabul to deal with their situation, right? China will use whatever leverage it has over the Pakistan to pull this country out of this down spiral of escalation, and Russia will provide all necessary support for Afghanistan, I guess, to stand strong against Pakistani aggression. We will see. We will see. Also, Turkey, by the way, wants to be seen as a mediator or peacekeeper, right? Turkish leadership under the Erdogan. And I saw some reports today that after Doha meeting, Ankara also wants to hold some talks with both sides, Pakistan and Afghanistan, to make sure that there is no more fighting between the two. Let's see if If there's gonna be no more escalation, of course that will be good. But uh, U.S., right? You know how U.S. political class, U.S. Intelligence services, militaries operate. They have no reverse gear, man. If they launch this operation against Afghanistan to force them to agree on deployment of U.S. troops, they will continue until, or at least they will use whatever means of influence they have. And if it works. If not, then they might eventually back down. But until they try everything, they're not gonna stop, of course. And when it comes to U.S., by the way, and U.S. Crimes committed all over the world, we have this report that Colombia accuses U.S. of killing a lifelong fisherman in a boat strike. And dear friends, I reported earlier. That Colombia was accusing. Sorry, dear friends, sir. I'm copying now some screenshots, sir. And there was two donations from Alexander G. Two. I guess that was okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Alexander G, for your donations. I just wanted to make sure that this is not some error on a Boosty. There was recently, like months ago, approximately, member of our community donated through Boosty, and I don't know, there was some glitch or something, and their donation came twice. And to make sure that there is no such issue, Alexander, if you don't just wanted to donate it once, then I will refund immediately. You just let me know where to send their money, right? And if ever anything like that is happening, by the way, there is some glitch and the donation come twice instead of once, you just let me know where to send money back, and I will refund immediately. By the way, it's but with these programs, sometimes things happen. None of us are controlling this stuff. So okay, I have copied this stuff, right? Let me continue with this news now. And so, Colombian President Gustavo Petro has accused the U.S. of killing an innocent fisherman during what President Donald Trump described as a strikes on drug smuggling vessels. U.S. military has destroyed several boats in the Caribbean since September as a part of Trump's campaign to eliminate narco terrorists trafficking cocaine and their fentanyl. According to Petro, President of Colombia, country's lifelong fisherman was killed on September 16. U.S. government officials have committed a murder and violated our sovereignty in our territorial waters. Fisherman Alexandro Garanza had no ties to drug traffickers, and his daily activity was fishing, Petro wrote on X on Saturday. And I remind you, dear friends, that also Trinidad and Tobago made the claims that two of its citizens were killed also during these Trump's attacks on the boats, right, in the Caribbean. So now, at least what we know by names, right, when people been identified, well, at least in several occasions, U.S. militaries, under their direct order of Trump, killed their civilians that had nothing to do with the drug trafficking or drug cartels or stuff like that. But it's a crime. It's a crime. Many experts inside the U.S. are raising concerns because this is not normal when a U.S. president authorizes killing of people left and right without any investigation, any due process. And these are not combatants, by the way. These are just some boats on the sea, right? Some are fishermen, some are maybe God knows what they are doing. Maybe some are linked to drug traffickers, or maybe some are linked to human traffickers, or maybe some are just having a party on a boat. Who knows, man? But this is definitely not normal when people being killed like that. And also on the topic of Colombians being killed, by the way, with the strikes, Colombian public media confirmed also that their vessel destroyed in a U.S. military strike on September 15. The second non-U.S. attack on a boat in the Caribbean was a Colombian fishing boat operating with the Colombian territorial waters. Among the 3 people killed extrajudicially in the strike was a lifelong fisherman, Alexandro Carranza, whose identity has been verified by his cousin. The boat had suffered an engine failure and was drafty, which with a distress signal raised. By the way, boat was actually sending distress signal. You know, which drug trafficking boat is sending distress signal? And despite this signal, U.S. militaries go ahead and kill these people on the boat anyways, right? Captain Leonardo Vega, an instructor and fishing companion of the Garanza, says the video of the strike clearly shows one engine raised, universal sign of damage and emergency. So it is what it is, man. Well, what else one should expect when president unilaterally, without any authorization, any legal rights, is authorizing killing of the people? He cannot authorize this kind of attacks, man. He's just in no position. No one is in a position to authorize this merciless killing of the people on the boats just because they might be or might not affiliated with some groups, man. This is crazy, right? RIA Novosti is also reporting that, nearly 7 million people, by the way, have taken part on the street, on massive demonstrations, by the way, in U.S. against U.S. President Trump and his policies. These demonstrations were organized under the slogan of "No Kings," and in more than 2,700 cities and towns, by the way, people went on the streets. Right? It was some massive stuff, right? I have seen videos. I'm quite sure all of you have seen videos. And yes, it was quite a big demonstrations, right? And overall, allegedly 7 million people participated. U.S. society is divided, isn't it? Big time. U.S. society is divided big time, and I don't think we will be far off from the reality if we will argue that this country is quite close to actual civil war. Because seems like one half of a country, due to propaganda, hate propaganda of the hate by certain groups of influence, half of the country hates another half. Literally hates, by the way. They hate each other, which is not normal, right? Why are you gonna hate someone if you are a Democrat, for example, and lifelong Democrat, like always voted for Democrats? Okay, why are you gonna hate someone that is lifelong Republican and always voted for Republicans? I mean, what the hell? Why are you gonna hate those people? Why are you gonna call them a fascist and that kind of stuff? And why they gonna call you some left lunatic or that kind of stuff? It's too bad, man. It's too bad. When societies are this divided, they're on some ideological lines, by the way. Ideology can play some tricks on the brains of people, and when there is so much hate, it's only like some accident, intentional or unintentional provocation, and that's it. Fire is ignited, and then it is very difficult to deal with the situation. Also, dear friends, RT is reporting that Louvre, this world famous museum, by the way, in France, in Paris, was robbed, and museum was shut down today because of this. So Louvre Museum in Paris has been closed for their day after a robbery on Sunday. Local officials have said. Unconfirmed media reports claim that several criminals stole 9 pieces from the Napoleonic jewelry collection. The incident was reported by the French culture minister Rachida Dati, who said on X that the robbery took place this morning at the opening of the Louvre Museum. She added that there are no reports of injuries and that police investigation is underway. The minister provided no further details. The museum itself said that it will remain closed for the day due to exceptional reasons. And there was also reports, by the way, that one piece, at least one piece, that was stolen by these robbers were found not far away from museum. It was broken. So maybe while these criminals were running away, they dropped it and it broke or something. I don't know. But there are reports that one piece was found. But, uh, well, things happen. Things happened. Sometime in the future, probably movie will be made about this robbery. I don't know. But it is unfortunate, of course. It is unfortunate because, you know, people, thousands and thousands of people from all over France, from outside of France, went to Paris to go to museum, right? And exactly on that day, museum is not working because some faking criminals stole some stuff. Of course, unfortunate. Anyways, on the topic of France, dear friends, S&P downgrades France's credit rating. So S&P Global has downgraded France's longer term credit rating from AA to AA minus to A plus, warning that rising debt and political tensions threaten the government's ability to reduce its budget deficit. The agency also revised France's outlook to stable on Friday. S&P experts S&P expects France's government debt to reach 121% of GDP in 2028, compared with 112 at the end of the last year. The agency said the country has struggled to rein in spending while dealing with the political turbulence. Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu, who is still Prime Minister, by the way, I mean, it's already weak, isn't it? And he's still in office, so okay, let's see, maybe next week he will resign. But anyways, the current Prime Minister of France, Sébastien Lecornu, recently survived their two no-confidence votes in the parliament after suspending contested their pension reform package. S&P warned that uncertainty surrounding France's public finances remains high, especially ahead of 2027 presidential election. The agency cited their government's decision to suspend their 2023 pension reform law as a sign of political fragility. It also projected economic growth of 0.7% in 2025, which only muted recovery expected in 2026. S&P added that risks to their outlook remain significant, particularly if rising government borrowing costs spill over into broader financing conditions in the economy. Okay, anyways, by the way, France's economy is still expected to grow 0.7% this year, but if you keep in mind that Western so-called elites are manipulating with numbers big time, by the way, right? They are constantly lying to public and to everybody about actual situation in economy, then I will assume French economy is in a recession already. I don't believe that this number is correct, 0.7% of GDP growth. I don't believe in that. I mean, you have your take. I think French's economy is in recession, same is Germany's economy, same is British economy. all these three main economies in Europe are in recession, in my personal opinion. Officially, it's only German economy is in recession, but I think France and the UK's economies are also there. And because of the manipulations with the numbers, they are coming up with this. They are creating this false narrative that, well, I mean, technically speaking, they are still not in a recession, and they even have some little growth. Really, I don't believe in that. RIA Novosti is reporting, and I will end news segment, dear friends, on this interesting news that soaring gold prices have earned Russia $142 billion in just last 2 years, which is quite something, isn't it? $142 billion in just 2 years, only on soaring gold prices, man. I mean, wow. Well done, good for Russia, by the way. So Russia's gold reserves have grown by nearly 142 billion over 2 years, according to RIA Novosti's analysis of the central bank data. Thus, on October 1st, 2023, there was 140.5 billion worth of gold bars in the vaults and of central bank. And on October 1st, 2025, there were already $282.1 billion worth of gold bars in hands of Russian central bank, right? This happened thanks to market rally. Prices for the precious metal more than doubled during this time to $4,300 from $1,800 per troy ounce. In physical terms, however, the stockpile of Russian gold actually decreased a little bit, right? By 0.2 million troy ounce, or approximately 6.2 tons. As of September 1st, it stood at 74.8 million, or as of September 1st, Russian gold reserves were standing on 74.8 million ounce, or 2,326.5 tons. Basically 2,300 tons, by the way. Unbelievable. It's quite a lot of gold, isn't it? 2,000 freaking tons of gold, man. Above that, 2,300 tons. Great, by the way. The share of gold in reserves at the beginning of the October was 39.5%. Their foreign currency portion increased by 0.6% over the 2 years, reaching $431 billion, right? So quite a good news, isn't it, dear friends? Quite interesting and positive news. And I'm going to end on that news segment. Just in gold, Russia has reserves of $282 billion, by the way. Just in freaking gold, man. That's quite something. I like that. And I'm quite sure there is very few countries in this world that actually have this volume of reserves in gold, in actual gold, right? And so, dear friends, I will end new segment on that. And well, hopefully you did like it. Hopefully news segment was interesting and useful, and you did hear some news, at least some news that you have not heard on other channels. For example, last news about gold. Did you hear about it anywhere? I don't know. But anyways, hopefully you did like the video news part of it. And if so, please click that like button, dear friends. Leave some commentary. And share too, if you can. And I will join now community chatter. I will scroll through chat and will take my time to respond on as many comments as I can, and or the questions. And also, dear friends, before I start, let me highlight this message from uh, Alexander G on Boosty. Thank you very much, Alexander G, for your donation on Boosty. There was two donations. On the first donation, there was a it was a tester. Anya explained to me that he was writing that it's a kind of test if Boost is working. Yes, it does works. And in a second donation, Alexander G is commenting probably thousands of regular USA military not listed at all, in addition to their 100 or so mercenaries. And Alexander G is commenting on a number of casualties on the side of US citizens that are participating in this war against Russia that West is waging. Thank you very much, Alexander, for your $20 donation. It's a $20 donation, I believe. Yes, 783 rubles both times. So it's a $20 donation. So thank you very much, Alexander. We opened the score in the fundraising. For now, there is only your donations. There is nothing on Super Chat yet or on PayPal. But anyways, when it comes to your comment, Alexander, I don't know about thousands of regular US troops, but I do remember number of instances when as a result of Russian strikes, long-range precision strikes, there were reports, right, and rumors that were circulating on the internet that significant number, dozens of officers, NATO officers were killed there and NATO military personnel, right, and among them, most likely there were US militaries also. But how many? It's anybody's guess. I guess when Russian security service shared information with the TASS news agency, they shared information only about cases when they actually managed to identify their killed mercenary, right? In other cases, if case is not close yet, let's say, if person is not identified, I guess that will be kept for investigation. Once identification will happen, probably more information will be released. And I'm quite sure, by the way, US military is lost at least dozens and dozens of its military personnel, including high-ranking officers, generals, and also intelligence officers. I'm quite sure about it. And right now, dear friends, there was a super chat on Rumble from Scooby, and let me highlight, dear friends, this super chat from Scooby. Let me highlight. So thank you very much, Scooby, for a $5 donation and your super chat on Rumble. And comment from Scooby is, Levan, do you still think Germany and Poland could end up in a conflict in the future? How does it happen? Oh, I'm quite sure about it, Scooby. I'm quite sure about it. I think a conflict between Germany and Poland is absolutely inevitable, and I can share my reading of the big picture, how this conflict gonna be provoked, and so you know my take on this former Soviet Republic Ukraine, right? I said quite a number of times, once this conflict will end, either there will be nothing left from Ukraine on the political map, or only Kiev and surrounding couple of regions, right, will maintain statehood, quasi-statehood on the political map, but exclusively in the Russian sphere of influence, right? When it comes to the rest of the territories, Western Ukraine most likely will be reclaimed by Western neighbors of all this former Soviet Republic, and that is Poland, Hungary, and Romania. The rest of the territory, one way or another, after referendums and so on, will join Russian Federation. That's my take on the situation, right? And when it comes to Western Ukraine, by the way, when Soviet Union took eastern parts of Poland, that is now Western Ukraine, 70% of it approximately. Poland received German territories as a compensation. Many people in Poland are ignoring this fact that Germany compensate Poland with the territories, right? With significant land, where still to nowadays ethnic Germans are living, right? And so once Poland will be in a position to reclaim its former territories, and they will, by the way, right? It's only a matter of time, and Lvov, Rovno, and all their bigger or smaller towns in Western Ukraine will be reclaimed by Poland. Obviously, German people, and there are some officials, most likely in Germany, will say, you know what, Poland, you get your territory back. I think it is time for us to get our territory back, right? And of course, Poland will say no, obviously, right? And their tensions will rise after that. Tensions will rise tremendously, and what will trigger direct military conflict? It's anybody's guess, right? But eventually these two countries will end up in a war. I have no doubts about it. And this time around, Germany might actually end up winning this war, because Poland will be relied on US and UK again, and Russia will not help. Russia will not help, and the US and UK would not be in a position to help either. So Germany will be decimated. Poland will be decimated by German forces. And if you think, well, Poland is investing hard in the military right now, and which is true, by the way, and are preparing for a war and that kind of stuff. Yes, it is true, but Germany, we all have seen level of militarization, isn't it? How much money being allocated or planned to be allocated in Germany for military. And Merz just recently come up and said that Germany gonna be most powerful defender or something, right? Basically, he inclined that Germany gonna have most powerful military again, and they are capable, by the way, right? They are capable of building a powerful military, and if German people know anything, they know how to fight. They do know how to fight. Poland, Polish, Poland had its high days, right? Militarily speaking, but Poland was never seen by anybody as a military power, right? No, with all the respect, right, to Polish history and so on, but Poland was never seen as a military power. And even when Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, by the way, was able to take control over the Moscow at one point, right? Even so, they were never being seen as by many, by the way, as some military force. Although ambitions, Polish elites were always very ambitious, right? Very ambitious, and they were still dreaming about being a most powerful country, at least among Slavic people, right? And the most powerful country in Europe, if they are lucky. But Poland is not a military power. Polish people know great things, right? They have very interesting culture, great people, wonderful, but I don't see them as a fighters, man. With all due respect, but I just don't see Polish people being fighters, right? And they are not, man. They lost to Germany. Last time they were engaged in a big war, they lost it in 5 weeks, right? So history speaks volume there. I don't see French people to be fighters too, by the way, for that matter. Even though France was always engaged in all sorts of some freaking wars. They love to fight with English, right? But I see English people to be fighters, but I don't see French people to be fighters. You know, so this is my personal just reading. And when it comes to Germans, by the way, I mean, I don't think they have to prove anything to anybody. I mean, there was 2 world wars, and Germany was engaged in both, right? So yeah, they know how to fight, and they will build their army, capable army, and I believe most powerful army in Europe, among the European NATO member states in next 10 years approximately. And that's the time frame when I expect war between Poland and Germany to happen, 10, 15 years from now. So yeah, and they will deal with Poland, by the way. I mean, existence of powerful Poland on the eastern flank of Germany is a threat that they cannot allow to have, right? So they will use whatever means they have right now and in the future to weaken Poland as much as possible, because strong Poland is a threat for them, right? Even if German army is like more powerful and more capable, still, nevertheless, strong Poland is a threat for Germany. It's a threat for other countries there. It will be seen as a threat by Hungary also, by Slovakia too, by everybody, because numbers, I mean, matter. And Poland is a territorially big country. It's a massive country, by the way, and will become even bigger once they will reclaim some 70% of modern Western Ukraine that used to be part of Poland before World War II, right? So that's my understanding. Big tensions, and they already have bad relationships. I mean, Scooby, Warsaw and Berlin have very bad relationships. They don't like each other at all. I mean, they already are treating each other as enemies, right? And take a look what Poland did just a few days ago when they refused. First, before Kurt's decision, Prime Minister and Foreign Minister and Defense Minister of Poland went to say that this individual that was arrested in connection with the Nord Stream terrorist attacks should not be extradited to Germany. And you remember what Tusk said, right? Prime Minister of Poland, Prime Minister, by the way, of Poland, that attacks on Nord Stream is not an issue. Issue is that there was a Nord Stream in the first place. He basically justified not just terrorist attack on a pipeline, but he justified terrorist attack on Germany itself, right? Because this was a strategical infrastructure for Germany, NATO member state. So, I mean, does it look like two allies, Poland and Germany? No, man, they hate each other, literally, right? And relationships will only deteriorate. And if you think Germany is happy that Poland is spending crazy level of money, by the way, like 6% of GDP already, about 5+ on military stuff, I mean, this does makes Germany nervous, as it should, man. As it should, because they have territorial issues. They will have territorial issues soon. And there are some other issues too between them, right? Some unresolved issues. And so, yes, I'm quite sure they're going to be war between them. Actual war, by the way. And for that time, 10, 15 years from now, I guess EU would not be in existence. Already, why EU is existing? Can anybody tell me what is the purpose of EU? So most likely EU would not be around for that moment, and probably NATO also would not be around for that time. So Europe gonna go wild, man. Continental Europe gonna go wild. In 10, 15 years time, you would not be able to recognize Europe, I think. And processes will only accelerate in Europe, these destructive processes, once Russia will finalize victory in this proxy war that West is waging against Russia. Now European so-called elites are forced to be united against Russia. But once Russia will finalize this situation, then they're gonna turn on each other, these European so-called elites, and they're gonna turn Europe into a freaking hellhole, man. I'm telling you. That's at least that's what I think about it. Thank you very much, Scooby, for your $5 donation and the super chat on Rumble. And well, there is no other super chats, no other donations to highlight. So I will join now. I will scroll, dear friends, through chat, and when see comment or question, I will react on it. And let's start from comments that Nikos write. So comment the Duran covered everything in their analysis for this meeting. Why I disagree with them about Putin being moderate. He did put his faith in Trump to end this situation quicker via diplomacy. I've been saying that he has understood that the West is willing to cause nuclear war, and that's why he did not react to their storm shadows initially. But now we see that there is no choice. If press, Putin and Orban are not able to convince Trump to stop, then you can start counting down that doomsday clock. Either President Putin or someone else will respond, and the West will start World War III. Nikos, I have seen you did mention a couple of times earlier that you are quite sure that these Western so-called elites are willing to go all the way, including deployment of nuclear weapons. And I have spoke about topic of nuclear weapons. I said that Western elites are planning to transform Kiev regime into a nuclear armed regime, right? And I'm quite sure certain work was done by Western countries in this direction, right? By US and UK, first of all. But I don't think, and this risk is still there. I think globalists might actually go ahead, globalists and their allies, they might actually go ahead with their transformation, with this plan of transforming this Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky into a nuclear-armed terrorist regime, right? And they might go ahead with this plan in upcoming days. You might hear in next several days beginning of the new narrative being pushed on the public that, well, if US is refusing to provide Zelensky with this and that, or Kiev regime, then, well, Kiev regime might resort to nuclear weapons, right? And they have expertise, they have so much radioactive materials and this and that. Just mark my word, in next couple of days, couple of weeks, we might see a relaunch of this topic in the Western media, right? And there are Western public officials, especially in Europe, will talk about it. British media will write about it and stuff, right? So this is a realistic risk, I think, that globalist control regimes in the West, especially Europe, under the leadership of UK, will go ahead with this tremendous level of escalation. I mean, transforming Kiev regime into a nuclear-armed regime. And it is a danger, but I don't believe West will use nuclear weapons directly against Russia. I just don't see it happening, because that will mean end of everything, right? And you think British aristocracy, those cowards, are suicidal? I really don't think they are suicidal. They love their lives, right? This what force is a main force behind their globalism? It's a freaking aristocracy, right? It's an aristocracy, generational families, by the way, that were ruling Europe and last 3 to 5 century, even almost entire world, right? It's a generational aristocracies, including royal families. British aristocracy and royal family is the most powerful among them, right? And they love their life. They love their freaking rich, almost all powerful position in life. And you think they're gonna give up on that? That really, I mean, that easy? They're gonna authorize nuclear war against Russia? No, man, no, impossible. I don't think so. I think, Nikos, you might maybe making some mistake in, maybe, I mean, maybe I am wrong, but in my opinion, in your calculations, there is that mistake that you think Western elites are suicidal, and I don't think so. They will push as long as they can, right? They will go all the way in all sorts of provocation while maintaining plausible deniability to avoid their paying directly for their crimes. But I don't think they're gonna go ahead and use nukes against Russia, man. No, they will try to transform Kiev regime into a nuclear regime. If in next several days or weeks globalists will fail, globalists and their allies, neocons, for example, in US will fail to bring Trump and his administration back into this anti-Russian camp on all 100%. In that case, you will see European regimes under the leadership of London, first of all, will go ahead most likely with this next phase of escalation, which is, among other things, transformation of Kiev regime into a nuclear armed regime. And this topic will become relevant, if my reading of the big picture is correct, in next several days, several weeks. This topic of nuclear Ukraine will become relevant in the media again. That's how you're gonna see that. Oh, I mean, they are actually preparing the ground, right? That's why they're authorizing all these publications in Economist, in Guardian, Mardian, and all their other outlets. So let's see how it will happen. Let's continue, dear friends. I'm scrolling now, and as always, dear friends, these capital Qs will do the job. Uh, of course, if you want to participate in fundraising, under this video there is a links, by the way. At this point, we managed to raise to $25. Yes, I mean, out of 200, that is task, but we only twice managed to reach 200. So you know, maybe some major sponsor will join our community now and will help out. So let's scroll. Of course, sir, you can become a premium subscriber, dear friends, on Rumble. Also, use a super chat there. And you can subscribe to my Patreon page. Everything, of course, counts. And there is PayPal and Boosty. So I'm scrolling there, friends, sir. I see some dialogue between the members of community, which is great. Sometimes there's some sort of infighting or something. As long as it's all in good language, as long as people are not attacking, insulting each other, exchange of opinions, sometimes emotional ways, okay. As long as it's all done in unacceptable ways. Sammy McPhee is commenting, I'm surprised the US is still pulling this peace talk while their satellites hit their pitch. Well, with US, one have to be very careful. What can I say? But yet again, We have spoken about Trump's flip flops, U turns, and so on so many times that I mean there is nothing really to add there. Uh, I I hope Russian side will take in account everything while being in talks with Washington. And because, by the way, I truly believe there is no objective reasons why US and Russia should be enemies. I mean, there is no objective reasons why Russia and US should be allies, sorry, enemies. Therefore, I think there is a possibility that some America First forces or whatever will manage to, at one point, maybe not today, but at one point, manage to regain initiative in Washington and actually began de-escalating, right? And I'm not saying that we should be like allies or best friends, Russia and US, but as long as we are not enemies and not treating each other as enemies, we have opportunity to establish good working relationship, and that will, I mean, that's great. Good working relationships will do, isn't it? And will benefit our peoples of both countries. So therefore, even though I'm very skeptical of Trump and his administration and their ability to de-escalate with Russia, um, let's give a chance to negotiations, to talks. Who knows? Maybe Russian negotiating team is maybe they will succeed. Hopefully, they will. Mhm. Michael Kennedy's commenting, my grandfather hated Germans because they gassed him and shot him on some. Yes, I mean, First World War, Second World War, by the way. Some is a First World War, right? And but there was bloody fights in the Second World War, and my grandfather who fought in the Second World War, all the way, by the way. Of course, also was not German friendly, but understandably so. By the way, they fought. They see what atrocities these Nazi troops, troops of Nazi Germany and their allies were committing. So but then generations change. We maintain memory, right? But same time, hate is gone, and now there is no hate towards Germany. By the way, I have no data of some studies, but I don't think there is any hate towards the German people at this point here in Russia. You might find some individual that hates everybody. You're gonna find that kind of people in any country, right? But in general, I don't think there is a hate towards any people here in Russia. If you conduct some thorough studies, I don't think people will, you know, I don't think there will be any significant percentage number of people that hates this or that group. No, hate is a strong emotion, and there should not be used that often. But yes, generation of my grandfather, that was different, of course. Nikos is also commenting. Trump has the IQ of avocado. he does not even understand when he's escalating. You should watch for JD Vance. That guy is evil. Really, I mean, I was hoping that JD Vance is a normal one there, and I see, you have a negative attitudes. Many other people, by the way, in our community and outside of our community, do have some very negative attitude towards JD Vance, and I mean, he may not be like genius of our times. He did say some quite stupid things, but I wonder why. Why? Can you elaborate on that? Why he is like particularly evil or something? Because I don't know. I don't really have strong opinion on that personality. I was thinking he's more America first than Trump is, uh, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't really pay much attention to US's internal politics, and now I pay attention to JD Vance's statements just because he's a potentially future president of US. Otherwise, I would not care really. So, can you, I mean, share a little more details why you think JD Vance is a like threat potentially for US or for rest of the world? Why he is that evil? Kate Stone is commenting biggest protest nationwide in the US yesterday, protesting Trump's regime domestic policy and their foreign policy as well. I reported about it in the news segment, Kate. Thank you for sharing opinion. And I saw videos, by the way. I mean, really, really big, massive demonstrations happened. According to reports in Russian media, about 7 million people participated all over the US, which is well, big, which is big for sure. And I mean, let's hope this confrontation between these two sides of aisle would not actually go down in would not down spiral into actual civil war, because when you watch leftist channels, even let's take alternative media, by the way, let's leave MSM, right? They constantly push hate, these MSMs, right? But even in alternative media, by the way, nowadays you're gonna see some hateful stuff being said from leftists towards the conservatives, and by conservative commentators towards the leftists, right? And this is dangerous. Now. This is dangerous, and I'm monitoring as much as I can, not just MSM that has some pages on social platforms, but also alternative media, of course. I'm being part of it, especially, of course. I will pay attention to it, and American channels, by the way, they are at war with each other, so things might escalate. I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating something because, yet again, I never lived in US. I don't really know much about some internal stuff there, but from outside, it does not look good when two groups are quite hateful towards each other. Saleh Saleh Nepton is commenting. No, nobody can organize a simultaneously rally across the United States unless he has their bank. Yes, I will agree with that. I don't think these rallies are organized strictly by ordinary people. I have seen some videos, by the way, with when people were like issuing instructions, some of them with the USAID T-shirt and stuff. They were not even hiding, sort of, right? So of course, this kind of massive events are organized and financed well. And this is also topic. I mean, who is financing and what is their goal of those financiers, what they actually want? Because they might not be supporters of these leftist movements or something. Maybe they want actually civil war to happen, or maybe they are being driven by some other ideas. But they might not necessarily be allies of Democrats. By the way, those who finance their rallies, they might use Democrats and their followers as a tool to achieve something that they want to achieve domestically in the US. But people, nevertheless, I mean, one thing is to organize something, and other to and very other when so many people coming out, right? So there is an issue clearly that has to be addressed. Otherwise, these millions of people would not march on the streets, no matter how well organized or financed the event is itself, right? This is also true, isn't it? There is some issues that needs to be addressed. Otherwise, you will only worsen the situation. And US is in that situation right now, in that position. And I saw reactions of Trump, by the way. Trump, JD Vance, when you also see these memes, isn't it? That Trump is flying some F-18 Mockery and dropping some on the protesters and stuff. And he posted it, man. He posted a video, this meme, in which he is like a pilot of this plane, and he's dropping on his own citizens, man, that are protesting some shit. What the hell, man? This is not normal. President should not act this way, man. These are still your citizens. What are you doing? And there are a number of officials in US reposted this nonsense, man. I mean, it's crazy. It's just crazy, man. I'm not a Democrat supporter in US. If I was US citizen, I would not support Democrats, for sure, by the way, right? I would not support Republicans either. I'd be independent, but nevertheless, president of the country, no matter how wrong or right your political opponents are, president of country should not go down that low to basically insult supporters of the opposition, his fellow citizens, and to antagonize hostility further, to antagonize his supporters, for example, to become even more hostile towards these demonstrators. This is not the way president should act, man, I think. What the hell, man? I don't know, maybe we in former post-Soviet area are just more conservative in general in all directions, and therefore we expect politicians to act in a certain way. And we do, by the way, right? Because I don't want Russian president to ever post stuff that Trump does, and it's shameful what Trump does, man, with his True Social and with his memes and stuff, man. It's what the maybe in America it's okay. I mean, maybe they're just laughing about and stuff, but we take it a little more seriously. When president does something, it has to be serious, right? It's a president, and president always have to act as a president, be serious, even in casual situations, maintain high level, right? Because that's the expectation. That's how it's correct. That's how it's supposed to be, right? And the same goes for other officials too. They should always maintain high level, try at least. But in US, there is a little bit different approaches I can see. And some might say, well, it's a humor, by the way, Trump is flying the plane and dropping shit on protesters, but no, man, he's dropping shit on American citizens. And he is the American president, so it's not okay. Mhm. So I guess, dear friends, there is no point for me to prolong this live stream artificially. I don't think there are gonna be any more super chats or donations, so I will just scroll to the end, and I guess that's about it. Maybe it is time no longer call these Sunday live streams fundraising, because you know it makes little sense, if any. So yes, I can see. I mean, members of community exchanging opinions, which is great, by the way. There is discussion, and no, oh, I see a question. Question Joe Warner Neckerker is asking, why will Russia die with their guns loaded? President Putin is a idol puppet of the elite regime. Which elites, though? So you are saying, Joe, that President Putin is a puppet of elites. Which elites? Western elites, Russian elites? He is a part of Russian elites, right? He's in a circle. Also, probably most powerful group, not probably most powerful group of elites here in Russia. So he cannot be puppet of his own elite. And if you mean Putin is a puppet of Western elites, then I think little more explanation will be needed, because this way we can claim literally anything, right? You can say you are alien, and what? How should I react on that? If you provide some substance to that claim that you are alien, then we are talking, right? So there are all sorts of rumors that Putin is a wafer guy. Putin is a world elite, and there's a world elites that actually play the games and keeping us in dark. And there's all sorts of theories and stuff, isn't it? But we need we need just information. It's not enough to say something. You need to provide some substance, otherwise you know. Oh, that's interesting. Nidish Kumar is commenting, Levan, maybe we will sell air defense to Afghanistan. Oh, that's gonna be great, Nidish. And I can see why India would consider to sell some air defenses to Afghanistan, and this might work actually. Russia also can, if Pakistan continues to escalate on behalf of US, then I guess Russia will deploy some air defenses also to keep Pakistani air force out. And when it comes to ground forces, I don't think Pakistani army is, can do better than American army. I don't think so. Entire collective West went in Afghanistan, and after 20 years run away, right? So if whole NATO was unable to force Taliban to submission, then Pakistan definitely not going to be able to, with or without air force. But if Afghanistan has means to defend its airspace, of course that will be good. So that's a good news, I will say. If India will transfer some, maybe older generation air defense systems, but still, by the way, it's better than nothing, isn't it? It will be deterrent, at least some sort. Alexander G is commenting, Luan, it could be my internet locally that was the problem. This is in regards to. Okay. It was supposed to be 20 USD. Alexander G, as I mentioned already, dear friends, donated through Boosty. And I already read the comment. And yes, just because I saw two donations next to each other, I had to ask, is it what you did or some glitch in internet? And so thank you very much, Alexander, for support. Excuse me. It's more than 2 hours, by the way, and I think it is time to end the stream. Oh, number 6 is commenting A plus. That's a French rating of France at this point. A plus is very bad for larger advanced economy. It starts with AA, triple A plus, then triple A, then triple A minus, then AA plus, and AA minus, and then A plus. So clearly there is a significant way of degeneration that the French economy did undergo in past years to be in a position of A plus from triple A plus. So thank you for this explanation, number 6. So definitely French's economy, I think, is in recession already, but it does not looks good anyways. what is going on there. Oh, donation. Wow. Thank you very much, Patrick, for a $50 donation on PayPal. And the comment is, you are doing fine job. Keep up the good work. Your information is very valuable. Thank you very much, Patrick, for a generous donation of $50 and supporter. Thank you very much. And now our overall 75. Yes, now we did manage to reach $75 during this stream. Thank you very much, dear friends. Thank you. And Michael Kennedy is commenting also. We'll have to wait 65 years to find their true NATO casualty figures. And yes, I mean they're not gonna release information for decades and decades and decades. That's for sure. Relatives of killed military personnel of NATO countries, they might, even if they have signed up for some papers, right, to receive compensations and stuff, that they would not speak to media. In several years' time, some of them might actually begin talking to media, right? And so we might learn some more. But true, I mean, more or less full picture would not be available for decades, for sure. Nikos is commenting, Levan, may I suggest doing these fundraising streams on Saturday and take a day off on Sunday? Oh. Thank you for suggestion, Nikos. I can't even remember now why I am taking Saturdays off. Usually, whenever I take day offs, not Sundays, but yes, I will. You know, ideally, if I can, I should work literally on every day, but it is quite exhausting, isn't it? And on Fridays, I'm killed, dead already, especially with their current programming. Like when I have one live stream in the morning, one in the evening, and that means I have to stay right next to notebook constantly. I just finished first program, I have to start working on another one, right? And somehow, meanwhile, I have to update Telegram, Twitter X, react on messages, and so on, right? So on Fridays, I'm like zombie, and that's why maybe I'm taking Saturday off. But ideally, yes, I can take like Sunday off and start from Monday. Thank you for your suggestion, because I will try to work every day, right? Next week, I'm going to try to have a live stream, to have updates literally on every day. I'm not going to take day off on Saturday. That's the plan, at least, but let's see how it will work. But this Friday, I was very tired, man. Nidish Kumar is also commenting, Levan, I think Putin must ask Trump that we can split Ukraine and develop golf courses and real estate, just like in Gaza. Well, there is quite a ways for a very profitable cooperation to be established between Russia and US. in many fields, right? In many fields, energy field, rare earth, uh, communications, right? Also trade routes, um, space. I mean, there is quite a lot of fields where cooperation between two countries can be significant. Uh, but for this, America has to have a leadership that is focused on America. For cooperation to happen, all is needed is US to be run by people that actually care about US citizens, right, and their interests, and US. In that case, we will manage to find the common ground. But if US leadership is working on behalf of some groups of interests like neocons, Zionists, globalists, and so on, then they would not care about US interests, US citizens. And with such a regimes, it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to actually reach any agreement and have a cooperation, isn't it? So it all depends on US. And let's be real here, until US society will wake up and demolish current corrupt system that they have in place and will build a new one which will allow decent human beings to be part of political process. I mean, until that will happen, how on earth US gonna have an administration that actually works for people? I mean, you tell me difference, you know. And current system is built to serve 1%, right, to serve groups of influence, right? Main groups of influence, not the people. Originally, maybe system was built by founding fathers of the US as one that will serve people. And clearly in a constitution and other documents, you can trace that. But especially after Second World War, by the way, this system was so corrupt, so uh, distorted that right now, if that system serves anybody, it's only groups of interest, but not the people itself. 100% convinced in that. And until U.S. citizens will reclaim their own country, demolish this corrupt system, and build a new one that will allow decent human beings to be part of a political process. Until then, I don't think it's much. There is any real probability that actual America first individual, people that cares about his fellow citizens, will become president in US. Michael Kennedy is commenting 10,000 Polish deaths in Ukraine, says they are subordinate to NATO strategy. And thank you for your comment, Michael. And I have seen this number being mentioned by Douglas McGregor also, right? I find it like it's very hard to believe that Polish elites actually did sacrifice like so many of their soldiers, disguised as a mercenaries or not, but nevertheless they did it. I think Colonel McGregor has good enough sources, right, in the current military and intelligence community of US, so he knows what he's talking about. And when I heard first time that about 10,000 people, Poland lost 10,000 of its troops, I was kind of shocked, man. If 10,000 was killed, then I guess another 20,000 was wounded, and that means a significant portion of Polish armed forces actually were sent into battle and was decimated, right? Что? Okay. Anya is telling me that when I'm reading, I'm kind of, still, and it seems like there is a issue with the live stream. No, I'm just reading the comments, dear friends. And Nikos just commented, well, Levan, these people don't care about their people. They have their bunkers and food for 80 years, and for them, it might seem like a reset. They prefer no one to win than lose. Um, yes, but you sure those bunkers gonna survive Oreshnik strike or nuclear strike? And yet again, those bunkers have to have oxygen, isn't it? They have to have only limited volume of oxygen you can take into bunkers, right? And if those bunkers will survive actual kinetic strike, which is hardly possible, can you imagine what will happen to the systems of air filtration or the water filtration? You need some air and water, right? Anyways, and if bunker is in the epicenter of the nuclear strike, that means everything is radioactive, including groundwaters, from which they might take water in those, I guess, big bunkers that they might hide. So they will die anyways. There is no bunkers, by the way, in this world that can withstand direct strike of a nuclear weapon. It is what it is. It's just a bluff. It's a movie stuff, right? That people are hiding in the bunkers and there is nuclear explosion and there's people after some time coming out from bunkers. No, man. This nuclear explosion means that crazy volume of radioactive isotopes being created, right, and dispersed all over. Some goes in a high atmosphere, some goes down with the rain, and eventually some goes into underground waters, right? It will poison everything. It will poison literally everything, from air to water, right? So even if bunker itself is in, like, let's say 500-meter deep underground, let's say, if there is any such bunkers anywhere, but let's say it's a kilometer away deep underground, right, and actually survive the nuclear explosion, what about water? What about oxygen? So they will die anyways, right? These bunkers are no panacea, by the way. No one gonna survive in bunkers. Eventually, these bunkers gonna become a trap for their inhabitants, right? And radiation poisoning will kill them. So, it's all movie stuff that bunkers can actually save you. No, from kinetic strike, from heat, from thermal impact, from initial blast wave, yes, bunkers can protect, but not from radiation. Radiation will poison literally everything, and these bunkers will just become a trap for slow death for those people that will be in. And those Western elites gonna knew it, right? They're gonna knew it, man. And that's why I guess nuclear war, full-scale nuclear war, was avoided until now, because you just cannot survive. And ones that will live for some time after this nuclear exchange, for example, will probably beg for death, because it's gonna be hell on earth, right? Ones that will die instantly will be counted as lucky ones, right? By those who will live for a day or two or another week or months, right? Because it's going to be hell on earth if full-scale nuclear war will happen, and eventually everybody will die anyway. I don't think humanity will survive full-scale nuclear war, you know. So, and I think experts are on the same page, right? And that's why for at least last 80 years we did manage to avoid this direct nuclear war, because there are going to be no winners. There is guaranteed destruction, right, in the place. So maybe Western elites don't want to lose, but eventually they will acknowledge that they lost, and they will capitulate. They will have no option, because I don't think they want to die, man. I really don't. Scooby is commenting, Levan should just get her on a WeChat or something. I don't even know what that is. WeChat. Ah, it's Chinese stuff. Chinese YouTube. Okay. I will know now that there is a Chinese stuff, WeChat. So seems like that's about it. Oh, Arthur Cottrell is commenting. JD Vance is a Palantir's Peter Tales beach. He owns him. Uh, well, you see, I have no freaking idea about that internal mix-up that is happening in the US. So, you know, thank you for commenting, Arthur. So I guess there is some relationships between Palantir and JD Vance, and Palantir is becoming like really influential in the US, isn't it? To advertise this company, there was a freaking parade made. Parade was made, which everyone sees as a Palantir's advertising or something. And Palantir is a company that will soon probably spy on everybody. Maybe already does. In US at least, right? Nikos is also commenting their arrogance that JD Vance has towards other nations reveals other US elites. Whoever he knows how to play the game so softly and from the shadows, kind of like Obama. And according to Arthur, he's linked to Palantir, which is not really good stuff, if true, of course. And yet again, I have no reason to doubt Arthur's claim there, because, as I said, I don't really pay much attention to US's internal some stuff. And if J.D. Vance was not a vice president, I would not care at all what he has to say whatsoever. But because he might become US president, either if Trump will be removed from office or after Trump, one way or another, Of course, it does make situation different, and we all pay attention now what he has to say. And also Arthur is commenting, there will never be a revolt in US because any organization of three or more, one is a Fed snitch, and this might be, I mean, maybe this is a bit exaggeration, but I think you are on point, because recently I read an article, by the way, that during the 6th January events, allegedly some 200 plus FBI and law enforcement agencies informants were in the place. 200 plus. What the hell, man? What is that? 200, if you have 200 people in the place, you can actually move around this mass, right, of people. And maybe they did. Maybe it was a inside job of a deep state, actually. Because what the hell? I mean, I was struggling to believe these numbers. I mean, like 200 plus people were informants of FBI and police. It's crazy. So you are on point there. I mean, I guess this law enforcement security services in US have total control, by the way, at this point. Total control. And the question is, who controls the controllers, right? Who controls them, if anyone, right? And that security services are part of deep state, isn't it? Nidish is asking, Levan, can Russia provide air defense systems to Afghanistan? Of course, Russia can, and maybe will. I mean, if India is considering transfer of air defenses to Afghanistan or sale of air defense systems, then probably Russia considers that too. And Russia might actually just, I don't know how Afghanistan is capable of buying stuff, but maybe Russia will give them a credit of some sort and transfer like long credit for 30, 40, 50 years or something. And let them buy air defense systems with that credit. Or maybe Russia will just give them like a couple of old generation air defense systems as a assistance, But definitely Russia can provide Afghanistan with assistance. And if Islamabad continues to mess around, most likely that will happen. And Russia will assist Afghanistan to defend itself. And Nidish is also asking, Levana, what is Russia hoping to achieve by proposing building a bridge between the USA and Russia? You mean tunnel? It's not going to be a bridge, it's going to be a tunnel from Russia's Chukotka region to Alaska. And in the political sense, it's actually will be the bridge between the two countries, right? And yet again, if one day, sometime in the future, US is led by people that actually care about America or people of America, and in that case, we can find some common ground with them. We can work with them, right? Because we will protect our interests, they will protect their interests, and there will be some middle ground where our interests are meeting each other, and we will cooperate on that line, right? So it will be mutually beneficial cooperation. And politically speaking, such a tunnel, if built, definitely makes sense. It will be this political bridge too. in a sense, right? Economically speaking, well, I think that's a big deal because this tunnel will connect Europe and US through ground, by the way, and China and global South in general, and US and other countries, by the way, in Latin America, right? Not just North America, but Latin America too. And on top of that, Africa, by the way, is getting connected. Uh, it's gonna be tremendously busy, by the way. If build, can you imagine how short? And if it's a high speed railway that is operating, this is only way it will work, right? It has to be high speed railway. And if high speed railways, several lines even potentially operating from Europe, from Eurasia, Africa, to move goods to US, to North America, South America, and vice versa, right? Other way around. Well, that will shorten travel, time for transfer of goods for a weeks. For a weeks, you can send some parcel something from China, for example, through delivery company, and this package can be in America, like, I don't know, in 3 days. Now this can be done only by plane, right? And of course, planes cannot provide volume that you want. That's why these enormous container vessels are moving around, right, in thousands. But this underground tunnel, if it's if it's built, it will provide this volume capability to to trade faster. You can send some goods from Kaliningrad region of Russian Federation, for example, through railway all the way to New York if you want to, right? And on a high-speed rail, or at least to reach Alaska, it will take on high-speed rail. It will take maybe, like, I don't know, 2 days. And right now, to send anything by water, by maritime trade routes, it will take 4 weeks, 5 weeks, by the way, before this certain good will reach New York. So it's a massive difference, isn't it? You're talking about 5 weeks and in one case, and you're talking about like few days in another case. So it's a beneficial economic. It's going to be economically quite successful project, I think, if build in a scale that will actually provide their capacity to transfer this high volume high volume of goods, right? And it will be also, some sort of a political bridge between the sides. So it's gonna be beneficial. Money, by the way, right? But I don't think we are anywhere close to building this tunnel. No, not today, not tomorrow, no, in next 10, 20 years. And after that, God knows what's going to happen, isn't it? So it's a good idea that has potential, but it's just that idea. It's not going to be realized, by the way. I don't think so. And it's an idea that was highlighted by Kirill Dmitriev. It's not something that Putin spoke about, for example, right? So it's well might be that Vitkov, maybe U.S. presidential aide, and Dmitriev maybe discussed between each other, right, during the meetings. But the Russian president did not mention this topic, at least as far as I can tell. Also, Hawk Slur is asking, why is the Zelensky not targeted so they can put Kiev in a chaos? Wouldn't that end the war real quick? Well, it's a good question. Why is Zelensky not being neutralized? Uh, I don't know. I don't know. Uh, in my personal opinion, it is supposed to be priority to eliminate military and political leadership of the enemy, so that you will create some chaos, disturbances among their enemy forces. Right, it will create some issues in logistics, in a decision making process, in logistics, and so on and so on. Right. Uh, so, in my personal opinion, if you are engaged in military conflict, your goal should be elimination of a leadership of your enemy, political and military leadership. Uh, I guess you think same way, right? But Russian leadership disagrees with us. Russian leadership thinks other ways, and operates other ways, right? And that's the only explanation why Zelensky is not being targeted yet, or other terrorists from Kiev regime, because Russian leadership don't thinks this is necessary. You know, that's the only reason why Zelensky is still able to run around and beg for more money, so that he will steal more money and beg for more weapons. He should be sent to the meeting with the God for a long time ago, like 3 years ago, or something, on very first day of special military operation. But this is my understanding of the situation. That's what I would do if it was up to me, but it's not up to me. Nidish is also asking, Leon, do you know what is happening in Peru? I don't have any idea of that part of the world. Well, because that part of the world really in the headlines, isn't it? But yes, there are some demonstrations, disturbances, quite wild demonstrations. Uh, Maybe yet another regime change is going to happen. I don't know. Uh, as you said, me too. Also, I rarely see news about that part of the world. Peru, Uruguay, Paraguay, Chile, even Argentina, by the way, very rarely makes it in the news here in Russia. Uh, so yes, I don't know. I guess people are not happy with something, or maybe some global powers are exercising their influences there too. Maybe it has something to do with their U.S. and China or something like that. But I don't know really. Like I still don't understand what happened in Madagascar, by the way. For example, president of Madagascar, it's a different part of the world, of course. It's not Latin America, it's Africa, right? Second biggest island in the world, Madagascar, right? After Greenland. And and place where lemurs are living, by the way, this very nice creatures, lemurs, right? Uh, and uh, and so yes, president of Madagascar also fled the country, militaries take over, and that former president now left for France, and that tells me there is maybe a possibility that people rebel against the French colonial regime there. I don't even know how influential France still was or still is in Madagascar, for example. So I mean, there's so much stuff in this that I have no idea, isn't it? And I'm not gonna pretend that I know more than I do actually. So I don't know about Peru. You know, only so much news. I can follow and try to learn some more in details. Well, there was a. I'm reading now news about Peru. Let me share some part of it. So there was already deaths, by the way, among protesters in Peru. 89 law enforcement officers were injured. One of their victims, Luis Magallanes, accidentally fired a shot, killing a 32-year-old local resident. Peru's new president, Jose Jerry, expressed regret over the death of their deceased on the social media, but also stated that provocateurs seeking to sow chaos and that chaos to be blamed on and violence to be blamed on these provocateurs. Protests in Peru, cities involving thousands of participants, are directly aimed at Mr. Jerry himself, president of Peru. The former president of Congress came to power after the impeachment of Dina Boluarte on the night of October 9 to 10, some 9 days ago. Jose Jerry is scheduled to remain president until July 2026. By then, Peru will hold elections for a new president who will then officially take office. So there is some internal, some political mess that is happening in Peru right now. Some might argue some sort of a coup d'etat had happened, and people are not happy about it. And that's all what I can tell right now. And Peru is extremely rich with some ancient architecture, isn't it? Also, well-known country for that. And dear friends, it's almost 3 hours. It's almost 3 hours, and let's end this live stream on that. Um, Interesting question also from Nidish Levan. Does Russia have any hydrogen-powered cargo ships in its fleet? I don't know. Hydrogen-powered there? I don't know. We do have nuclear-powered vessels, icebreakers, for example, when it comes to civilian uh, fleet. But maybe some Russian companies ordered some vessels in China or in South Korea. South Korea is also big, isn't it, in shipbuilding? And if latest technology is this hydrogen stuff, maybe there are some vessels in hands of Russian companies. It's such a powered by hydrogen, but I don't know. This is some specific stuff that you have to study, especially to be aware of. I have not hear anything about it. And I guess that's about it. That's about it for now. I see this comment from son of Krypton. Why don't they just level Kiev like Gaza? It's what their Zionists do. Russia is playing too nice. In hope Putin is their boss, but still he needs to put the hammer down on their. Will just keep chipping at the Russia's defense. Well, Kiev is one of their oldest Russian cities, by the way, and they're no one gonna level Kiev. You should understand, everyone should understand that we are fighting, unfortunately, we are now engaged in a civil war, right? From our standpoint, this conflict between citizens of Russia, between Russian Federation and residents of Kyiv-controlled territory, this is a civil war, right? We are fighting our brainwashed brothers and sisters that been brainwashed by the Western elites, Western propaganda, and then being weaponized against us, right? But this fact that they've been weaponized, they've been brainwashed and weaponized and used against us does not change their initial starting point, which is that they are our brothers and sisters, just brainwashed ones, right? And we have to save as many of them as possible when this conflict will end, right? And there are going to be denazification programs in place, and there are many things have to be done, right, to resocialize, basically, to achieve resocialization of those people who not committed crime. Who committed crime, that's a whole different story, but who didn't committed crime, they should undergo these programs and come back to reality, right? And we have similar approach, by the way, to everything in regards, with exception of Western Ukraine, by the way. Western Ukraine is a little bit different, but rest, it's Russia, right? It's Russia, by the way, and everyone hates to see destruction on the line of contact. Everyone hates to see this destruction, by the way, because it's, it's Russian territory that is burning, right? And it's all have to be rebuilt, of course, and will be rebuilt, by the way, as it's done in Mariupol, for example. So yes, I mean that's the attitude we have, by the way. We will try to avoid casualties among residents of the regime as much as possible, and that's what Russian troops are doing, by the way. On the battlefield, of course, battlefield is battlefield. When you are in fight, either you or there is no much choice there. But Russia is doing whatever is possible to minimize casualties among the civilians, right? And Russia is doing as much as possible to minimize destruction whenever there is a long-range strikes conducted, right? Line of contact, of course, due to high intensity of their warfare, on line of contact, almost nothing is left not to be at least seriously damaged. But whenever Russia conducts long-range strikes, there is always an emphasis on avoiding casualties among civilians and avoiding unnecessary damage of infrastructure, right? Yet again, it's a Russia, by the way. Kiev is a Russian city. It's a Russian city, by the way, right? So no one gonna level Kiev. No one even gonna think about it. I mean, it's So it is what it is, dear friends. 3 hours exactly at this point. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much for your support. Have a wonderful day, dear friends, and see you tomorrow. Take care.